Hi everyone. There's still a few more people to join us today, but just thought I'd get started with a few basic things. Firstly, would just like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land that we're all on today and their continuous connection to land and sea. I also pay my respects to elders past and present. For me, I am on Darug land, and I know this is a national group, so everyone is coming from different lands as well. I would also put the disclaimer here around conflicts of interest. I do work for Ocean Protect for those of you that don't know me. Ocean Protect is a company that supplies and maintains WSUD assets, so there is a potential conflict with that. However, there is conflicts across the industry and even within this group, and so things have been put in place to try and manage that conflict. In terms of an agenda for today, first 5 minutes just to kind of um, go through some meeting logistics, then looking to do a presentation from Justine Barrett, where she'll talk about some of her PhD research she's been doing over these past few years. Following that, bit of a Q&A with Justine. I'm going to just touch on the zero litter to the bay up in Queensland at the moment, as applications are due next month, and then do a bit of an update around the framework, what my priorities and goals are for the year, open up to Q&A, and then look to wrap up at around the hour mark. But if people want to stick around and have a chat about anything else, happy to do that. So firstly, if you can just keep yourself on mute when you are speaking, just to avoid any weird background noises. If you do have something you want to say during the meeting, if you can just raise your hand virtually, and then you can be called upon. And if you do speak, at least for that first time, say what organization you work for, just so that people know where you're coming from and what your kind of background is. And then just be respectful of everyone's opinions, ideas, and time. We're all kind of got different opinions. We do need to be thinking a bit outside of the box for some of the issues in the WSUD compliance space. So creative and out of the side of the box ideas are welcome. And then in terms of time, looking to stick with the agenda, but also this is not the time to be pushing and promoting services and products and all of that. This is about discussion and working together. So just want to say thank you this is, I think, the 12th meeting now. So thank you to everyone that's been involved to date. There's been a bunch of councils and state government, consultants, nonprofits, and a whole bunch of other organizations out there. So thank you for coming along. It's great to see such diversity getting involved in this network. And welcome to anyone that this is their first time, whether it's the first time for them or even their organization. For those of you that are new, as I know there are a few of you, the National WSUD Compliance Network is a group meeting regularly to discuss WSUD compliance, but also hold the development of the framework accountable and make it transparent and provide an opportunity for feedback so that this framework can be shaped with industry and it's not just being led by me. The framework is a free package of information, resources, and tools for councils to improve their implementation and management of WSUD assets within their jurisdiction. And so this has received in principle support from several organizations, and last year won a few awards, which was good. So it's great to see the work that we're all doing together on this is getting recognized. And for those of you that aren't able to stick around for the full hour or have to leave early, you can get in touch with me after today. You can email me, you can call me. The meeting slides and recording will be available on the website. Otherwise, you can access the framework via the website as well, or connect with us on LinkedIn so that you can keep up to date when there's the next network meeting. And so that kind of brings me up to the first talk, which is Justine Barrett. She is doing her PhD at University of Tasmania and working at CSIRO. She's also a director for Stormwater Australia and part of Stormwater New South Wales. So she's doing quite a lot of stuff in the space. And I thought there would be a lot of relevance, especially based off some of the work she published last year for people in this group. So I thought I'd invite her along. I'm not sure, Justine, if I've missed anything, but I'll hand it over to you now.
I think you've got it covered. Thank you.
And
Hello,
you can,
everyone.
all right, cool.
All right, we're good.
Uh,
Jenna.
yeah,
Yep, all good. All right. I can't see any chat or
yeah,
anything like that. So let me know if anyone's got any questions as I'm talking. Feel free to sing out, and
Yeah,
yeah, I'd be happy to stop and have a chat. I'd like to.
just
I mean, there's a lot I could say, but I want to keep it. I want to keep it brief, just so that we can have more time for
just
conversation. Oh, sorry.
flagging your sharing the display where it shows your notes and stuff.
Ah, all right. That's not good. What if I stop sharing? Screen one. Is that better?
I still see the same screen.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Hmm. All right. I'm going to put myself back to one screen and let's see if that helps. It's one, yeah,
It's all good.
whatever. Okay. Come on. Is that better? There we go.
Yes,
Okay.
that's good.
Thank you. Yeah, hello, and yeah, thanks Dan for having me. It's yeah, I'm always very happy to talk about stormwater. So yeah, I'm based in Hobart, and yeah, I'm doing my PhD on reducing ocean litter via stormwater systems. So I've been in the marine debris space for about 9 years now, and a lot of the work we've done has been international. But yeah, I mean, the more I learnt, the more I realised that we still have a pretty big problem to deal with in Australia, and stormwater is the biggest contributor of marine pollution. So in Australia, we have around 100, we're losing around 170 tons of litter each year, which is the equivalent of 47 rubbish trucks backing up to the ocean and dumping their litter their load every day. So every day, 47 rubbish trucks. Um, and like I said, it's predominantly via stormwater outlets. And I think that the biggest challenge, or one of the big challenges with stormwater and litter or any other pollution, is people just don't know about it. No one has this awareness of it. And we do have solutions in place, which no doubt you're all aware of, but we have different kinds of GPTs. So my work is all in GPTs and around the public GPT sector. So a lot of Dan's work is around private and mine's a lot around public. But for those that, just in case you're not aware, there's a whole bunch of different types of GPTs, gross pollutant traps, and their job is to filter stormwater to pull out the gross pollutants, the big pollutants. And in doing so, often that means that they're pulling out other pollutants as well. So the majority, from a survey that I did a couple of years ago, the majority of GPTs are the larger underground units, about 56%, which is C in this image. And then the next one most numerous is the roadside gully pits, B here. But then there are other traps like the floating traps, which is A, and then those maybe I'm a little biased, but in D here, the socks, which I just think are terrible because they just don't last very long. But anyway, horses for courses. The challenge with GPTs is that they get installed and they fill and then they don't get emptied. So they sort of essentially become useless. So I worked with, I'm assuming most of you know Murray Powell, the godfather of GPTs. So he is optimal stormwater, and his job is to do audits of GPTs around Australia, really, but it's across different states. And what his data shows is that the majority of GPTs in Australia are non-operational, so 40%. So it's the exact situation I was just talking about, where they're installed, really good intentions, but they, for whatever reason, they don't get emptied. So Murray found that Optimal Stormwater have found that only 5% of all the GPTs they've audited, which is almost 1,300, are fully operational. It's only 5%. Yeah. So, and I think anecdotally the industry knows this, and it's really nice just to put some figures out there. And this is going into a paper that is really, really close to being published. So, hopefully. I don't know. I mean, hopefully this data will get legs and actually reach its way up to people that are, making decisions around stormwater pollution maintenance and things like that. And the reason I care is because of pictures like this, and we've all seen them. I think humans are just so destructive on the planet, and we have to pick our battles. Well, this is the battle that I pick. And if you don't care at all about the ocean and the ecosystem, the other reason that we should worry about this is because it's actually illegal to not maintain your GPTs, or at least it could be seen to that extent. So every state is different, but for example, in New South Wales, if by you not, or you or the council not maintaining their gross pollutant traps is deemed an act of pollution, then the corporation can be fined up to 10 million, individual up to 2 million, and up to 7 years imprisonment. So, and like I said, it depends, it varies from each state in each state, but every state has an overarching Environmental Protection Pollution Act or equivalent. And so it has never been tested, but if it was tested, and we did start using full GPTs as an example of pollution, then yeah, potentially could be seen as being illegal. So I did a survey in 2022 to 2023 across the end of the year to start of the year of almost 100 people that work across very different areas, different stakeholders, um, different roles and things in the stormwater environment. I don't know why that's just done what it did, but anyway. And these were the top 5 barriers and reasons of why they think the stormwater industry thinks that we're not maintaining our GPTs. So the top one was a lack of resources. And so not just funding, we all assume resources is funding, but it's not just funding, it's actually having the staff that are trained and educated in what to do. Again, I don't know why, I've obviously made an error with my slides, why that's doing what it's doing. There's a lack of consequences, GPT maintenance is a low priority, the lack of understanding of why you need to maintain GPTs, and a lack of clear and aligned stormwater policies outlining GPT maintenance. And that comes down, or like right to the top, like nationally, there just isn't that national guidance like there is with other environmental issues and topics like that. Yeah, with stormwater and stormwater treatment, there just isn't that overarching national guidance and support we need from federal government. So the reason why I did make these little blue things is I was going to talk through the fact that that they're all linked. So we could talk about the lack of resources, but then we could argue that if GPT maintenance is a low priority, and we, for flip's sake, sorry, I'm a professional, believe me. Yeah, GPTs are, if they're not such a low priority, if we can make people more aware of their role and how important they are, then you could argue that we'd increase our resources. So lack of resources wouldn't be such an issue. You could say the same thing for improving people's understanding of the need to maintain GPTs. And this is people across the board. So people making these financial decisions within local government, people making policy decisions up higher at state and federal level, people that are, even the public, having more education and awareness for the public around why it's important to maintain gross pollutant traps, because generally they do care about pollution and about the ocean, but they don't connect stormwater to it. And the other thing here is a lack of consequences for not maintaining GPTs. You could argue there that if we brought those in, then we'd find the resources again. And so they're all really linked. I think these top 5 barriers, they're different, but they are all linked to each other. If we fix one, that potentially has a flow-on effect to others. So there's so much that we can do in this space. There's so much improvement, and I really feel like momentum is building within the industry to try and make these changes. And there are people on the call, some names here that, like David Nixon has been leading the way with the squid task force in New South Wales. It's been doing amazing things. And I think, David, we're at the point now where we're kind of going, we've done all this work, what do we do with it? But we'll keep pushing. But some of the potential solutions to address those barriers is a nationwide funding model, so councils could apply and get money to actually start regularly practicing the emptying of like GPT maintenance, the emptying of those pollutants. And a lot of them do, like I should put in a disclaimer, or I don't know what the word is here, but just a lot of councils do a really good job at maintaining their GPTs. They are the minority, unfortunately. There is a stormwater levy in some councils, particularly around the Sydney area. So one of the challenges there is that the levy doesn't necessarily go towards stormwater maintenance. It might go towards putting in new assets and things like that. There was even talk about the anecdotal conversation around the fact that it doesn't go to stormwater at all. So there are challenges there. There's a lot of conversation, again, anecdotal around the fact that developers, so a new property development gets built and then the assets, so it includes stormwater treatment assets, they get handed over to local government and the developer kind of gets off, they don't really have much of responsibility following that. And so, there's work that could be done there. We could be incentivizing best practice or having consequences like fines. Um, my opinion is just a personal opinion, which is to have like tiered consequences. So if a council gets caught not maintaining their GPTs, emptying that litter out, then maybe they have to hire somebody. So the consequence is they hire somebody to implement a program, and then if in 12 months' time, if they're still not emptying their GPTs, then they cop a fine or something like that. Like I think there's a lack of education around this within local government who manage the GPTs mostly, that we need to address also. Again, increased awareness, formalised training, an Australia-wide community of practice. So yeah, that is gradually building as well. Stormwater New South Wales has a formalised, no, has a training, an informal training that Murray Powell runs around the Yellow Book, which is basically a Bible for gross pollutant trap maintenance. And part of the SQUID task force has been to try and get that up and running as a national training program so that everyone has access to it now, but making it easier for people to access. The Australia-wide community of practice, I think that's really important, particularly for new people joining the field. So if somebody starts in a position of a stormwater position within a local government, if they don't really know who to turn to or where to turn to, having some kind of industry body to do that is really necessary. We do have that. States have a stormwater association. If you're not part of it, I recommend you to join. But then there's also Stormwater Australia and with the change of board in recent time at Stormwater Australia, there is new opportunity to create a more engaged community of practice for stormwater. And then nationwide GPT standards mandating effective maintenance. Like, oh man, that'd be so good to have. We're just not there yet. We're all kind of pushing and working towards these goals, I think. And something else to point out that I found in my research when I surveyed councils and asked about, conditions of GPTs and things like that, what I found was that councils, local governments that have improved GPT functionality are always following manufacturers' guidelines or following a maintenance schedule or both. And so if you're in a local government and you don't do either of those things, chances are you also fall into the category of having very non-operational gross pollutant traps. And one of the big kind of moments for me when I was doing this survey work was around a quarter of all councils don't even have a register of their stormwater treatment assets. That if you don't know if you don't have a register, maybe you don't even know where they are. And certainly when a new person comes in, you've lost that level of information. So if you don't know where your GPTs are, of course you can't maintain them. I like to finish up by just telling you about what's happening in Justine Land. So I think all of us that are here are working in this space, to try and better the stormwater industry. The work that I'm doing is I have gross pollutant trap level sensors installed across 60 GPTs Australia-wide in a bunch of states. I'm using matter sensors. So they detect the level basically of gross pollutants. And I'm going to use that data and bring in other variables like traffic loads, environmental stuff like rainfall, land use type, and just try and build a better predictive model of gross pollutant trap volumes. So that way there's better information and more updated information when you're selecting a device for a new installation. And ideally, if you've got a better idea of how quickly your gross pollutant trap is more likely to build over time, then you can schedule your maintenance based on need rather than just timing, if that makes sense. At CSIRO, we've also got an AI model for detecting floating litter in waterways. So this is where you put cameras, trail cameras on the underside of bridges, and they take a photo every 5 seconds during daylight hours. And from that, we run it through a model and it tells you how many items of litter have passed underneath the bridge. So that's a really good way to compare one site to another. If you've got funding, say, to install one GPT and you've got 2 or 3 waterways that you're not sure where's your best bang for your buck for that new installation, we can actually let you know fairly easily and quickly which waterway is the most littered. And then, of course, beyond the field work on the ground stuff, there's always it's always beneficial to take a step back and look at the policies. So I'm partway through a policy gap analysis looking at national and state policy. So not local government, but taking a step back to national and state. So watch this space. I'll get back to you on that one soon. Um, and then there's things like, advocacy in industry collaboration. And again, I really encourage you, if you're not involved in an advocacy and you've got the motivation to be involved, have a chat to myself or Dan or David Nixon or somebody out there will know who you can get in touch with, because ultimately, this is a huge battle that we're all fighting for cleaner oceans, really. But yeah, if I speak on behalf of Stormwater Australia and Stormwater New South Wales, we're always keen for fresh blood. Come in and give us a hand. And the last thing I put on there was a national hub of GPT pollution data. That would be so cool eventually to have that kind of hub of information. And ultimately, I would like to work myself out of a job. So if we actually, I've crunched the numbers and it's very approximate, but if we had stormwater treatment and, well-maintained GPTs on all stormwater outlets across Australia, we would reduce Australia's ocean pollution footprint in terms of litter, at least, by 63%. Like, it's just massive. So, my ultimate job is just try and make stormwater squeak. Squeaky wheel gets the oil. I'm one of those people that's trying to make it squeak and pass that up the chain to people that are way more important than me to make those decisions and get some better circumstances for us. So yeah, I wear a few hats. I'm involved in a few things. So yeah, really happy to chat with anyone who's interested in what I do. Thanks.
Hi, Justine. My name is Daniela. I'm from Kingston Council. How are you?
Hello, Kingston in Tasmania or Kingston in
In
Queensland, is
Victoria.
it?
No, in Victoria.
Oh, Victoria. Yeah, hi.
Yeah.
Yeah. I live in
Uh,
Kingston in Tasmania in that council.
oh, really?
That's why I asked.
Very cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. That was really interesting. I just wanted to ask you, with the research that you've done, have you found that there's more GPTs in councils where they have waterways, open waterways, versus councils that would have more drains? So, for example, we at Kingston, we've got the bay and the Moriala Creek and everything. So we've got a number of GPTs, but then obviously upstream, there's other councils that don't have the waterways present. They have more drainage, um, more channelized drains. So have you found there's a difference there with, how many GPTs are put in or where they're put in?
Hmm. I don't know. I haven't actually done any research or data collection on any of that, Daniela, but that's a really interesting
Mm,
point you make. So, does anyone else in the audience have anything they can add? Yeah. I mean, you also raise a really good point
Mm.
that, if you're working in a council downstream, you're doing amazing things. The council upstream can basically do nothing and get away with it. And I think
mm,
that's one of the challenges with managing any waterway. It's sort of, you almost need that catchment level management, and there's definitely been I've been part of lots of conversations around whether that's worth it too. But
yeah, because
there's
they're quite I mean, GPTs are a big investment. And so just wondering
absolutely.
if, that's something that, obviously we're trying to work out where they best sit and everything like that. But then if other people upstream could, if they also have it, it would be fantastic, so we'll be kind of capturing the litter,
Yeah.
in two separate areas instead of one. Yeah.
It'd be cool if we had like a national map of the local governments and which were the worst offenders. We can name and shame them. So those of you working downstream doing amazing things, can actually get recognition for the
I
work.
like that.
There is a question from Leo Krusty. from Enviro
Oh, hey, Leo.
Australis. If you want to chat, Leo. Um,
Are
you're
you able to jump online, Leo,
he's
and ask a question, comment?
he's not muted, but yeah.
Oh,
If you're having technical issues, maybe just drop the comment in the chat, Leo. Oh, there you are.
oh, there he is.
Can't hear you.
Still can't hear you, Leo.
No,
No.
you might just.
Okay.
Oh wait, there you are.
Ah,
Hang on, let me try again. I'll
That
unmute and mute
works.
again. Is that working?
we can hear you
Yeah,
now.
Okay, righto. What I've been proposing for years is that we should have GPTs, I'd like to call them stormwater quality squids, registered on the property title. Therefore, the owner knows that it's there. Therefore, you can report it back to council, and in fact, what should also be reported is when a squid is designed in or proposed, then its maintenance interval should also be noted, and then it should be kept to that, so that if a device is put in with a claimed 12-month service interval, then that's what should be on the title, and therefore, together with a rates notice, the owner should say, and yes, I have made sure that the SQID is fully functional, it has been maintained. And that's it. It's a potential revenue base for councils as well. Part of the stormwater levy could then be directed to managing it. It's not a big task to manage it when it's attached to the title. And it also should force the specifiers and designers to make that assessment of how often does it need to be maintained in order to be functional and what's required.
I think that's where Dan comes in, Leo. You're hitting on a point
yeah,
about private
yeah. So
squids, and yeah, that's Dan's work.
yeah, so I'd say there are like I'm not sure what it's up in Queensland. I think pretty sure that's where you're based, Leo. But in New South Wales, it does seem to be councils are starting to kind of do this in some LGAs, like Blacktown does it. I know other councils in New South Wales, mainly in Sydney, are starting to do that, where they have it registered against the title of the property, saying that yeah, there's a WSUD system or there's a squid or OSD or whatever ends up being, so that there is that sort of registered on that property. Yeah, I'm not too sure how used that is across the country, but that is kind of happening in Sydney. But yeah, it is a good point. It's good to have it registered against the title so that the property owner is aware that they have that and what they need to be doing.
And furthermore, Dan, the need for specifying the maintenance methodology and interval is not apparent in stormwater management plans. I can assure you that 95 to 99% of stormwater management plans that are lodged with councils are defective in actually identifying the functionality and sustainability of stormwater quality improvement devices.
Yeah, I think yeah, there is a lot more that needs to be done to make things clearer because yeah, there are a lot of documents that are prepared during that development process. And if things can be simplified into one document or maybe just a few rather than several, it will help make that a bit easier to what you're saying.
And I think, Justine, it should be a role of the Stormwater Association to do it as an independent overarching body. It needs to be moved away from potential suppliers like Daniel's organisation and ourselves. We're very happy to stand on the sideline and contribute, but I don't believe that we should be inside the court, so to speak, and that the information should be digested and prepared completely agnostically by independent parties.
Yeah, that's referring to the framework. The plan is long term to hand that over. It's just at the moment we're getting it established and tested, and then someone, whether it is Stormwater Australia, happy to have those conversations with them.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you that a matter of only a few weeks ago, we saw a stormwater management plan that in order for it to work sustainably required maintenance to be carried out 20 times per annum.
Yeah, okay. Well,
Wow.
And the council in question, which I won't name today, could not be bothered listening to that simple calculation statement.
yeah, okay. Yeah,
So
no,
the
these are,
apathy was just palpable, absolute apathy. And the council in question has discharge dumping out into the oceans where they are protected waters.
yeah,
Happy to share that privately, but not in this audience.
yeah, that's all good. I think, yeah, no, thanks for your questions and comments about all of this. That's,
Okay.
yeah, important stuff to share. That I know Justine has to leave soon, so just checking. There are a few more questions in the chat, so maybe
Oh no,
we
I
can.
can stay. Yeah, that my afternoon kind of
Oh,
flipped on its
cool.
head, so I can stay. Yeah,
Okay,
thanks.
cool.
Yeah.
Just going on to the next person, Sarah from Melbourne Water
Hi,
has a
yes,
question.
hi,
Yep.
I do. Hi, Justine.
Hi, Sarah.
I just had we're starting to think about a GPT sensor trial with a collaboration of councils, which is pretty exciting. And I guess trying to think through the objectives of what that pilot is testing is, and it's not challenging, but there's so many things you could test with a sensor, like, you know, could it be cost effective because it replaces the in-person assessments that some councils do before they engage a contractor? Is the maintenance program set at the right level? I was thinking about how you would use them for assets with high litter generation land uses upstream, to kind of whether you could use them as a to help inform compliance activities if required. So yeah, I was just wondering, with your trial, that you're doing across the states, what were your objectives for those?
Yeah, great question. My objective was to collect data from as many different kind of environments as I could, to inform this model that I'm building. So I've got a base model based on some manual measurements that I've done. I did in Hobart so just roadside gully baskets. I had 30 of them. I measured them every fortnight over a year or more. So I have built a base model, and then so from there I wanted to expand out to try and get a bit more of an informed national picture. And it's obviously very different, say in Tasmania versus like Townsville and places like that. So have to admit a lot of it come, like, I would like to have had it more, with a lot more variables and more scientific approach, but it was also which councils had the resources to spare to help me with this project as well. And so I know there are the level sensors that I'm using with Matter. I know they've set up quite a few in Melbourne Council and in Monash Council, so it might be worth having a chat to them about what they have done. Also, while you're at it, can you ask them if I can have their data, because they don't want to talk to me. But the more data I have, the better the model will be, right?
Yeah. Yes, we've been talking to Ashish, so I'm just going through the planning.
Great. Yeah. Hi, Ashish. Yeah.
The planning side of things. So
yeah. No. I mean, I think because we're so, I was going to say new, but it's really quite an immature area, stormwater pollution, in terms of the modelling. And so at the moment, my objective was just to get more data and build this model. And then once the model is established, I'll have an allowance for more data to be built into it to make the model better. And so what I would love to see eventually is to have the model that I build actually replace the very small model or predictive tool that's in music at the moment, because in terms of litter, the data that they use is from a study that was done in like 25 years ago in Coburg in Melbourne, so one suburb. Yeah, and that informs all of Australia in terms of gross pollutant volume and things like that. So yeah, ideally I think at this stage we can't be so scientific about it. We just have to get data to start with, and it may be in 5 years' time, 10 years' time, we're a bit more advanced. Then we start getting a little bit more selective about what gaps there are in that data. But at the moment, the gap is there's no data.
Yeah, it's hard. And also, I guess we did the AI floating litter on waterways. So we weren't as successful as maybe you were. We found some issues with litter detection based on it being submerged and the water being a little bit turbid. So
there's so many issues. Yeah.
Oh, there's so many things.
So
we found that quite. There's lots of learnings out of that. I think as the technology evolves, we'll get better outcomes. But we're just.
Yeah, I'm happy to chat with you about that, Sarah. Yeah, because we're at the point too with our model where we're nearing the point where we can share the data, the photos that we've collected, so you could use them in your model to make your model more accurate, things like that, and to share our model as well. So please reach out if you'd like to explore that.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks.
Like I'm happy to kind of keep going with the questions for you, Justine. I feel like I've talked about the framework every single meeting, so happy to stick with that or for a little bit more.
What if we give it just another couple of minutes? Because there's a lot of people in the audience that probably want to hear about the framework.
Yeah, okay. Final question then.
Oh, no, hang on. Che.
Yeah,
hello,
I was going to say, yeah.
Oh, is that the one? Okay, yeah.
From Oricon, do you want to read the...
Yeah, no, I read it earlier. Yeah,
you touched on
such a good point. Yeah. Turn your camera on, Che, so we can all wave. But yeah, you're right in that we need to, hello. There is that really, like, it's an ethical question. Why do we bother in Australia when we have so much pollution entering through Southeast Asia in particular? Oh my gosh, if anyone's actually been there, yeah. So, like I said earlier, that a lot of the work that I've done is international, and a lot of the work the CSIRO Marine Debris Group has done is international. And yeah, I've done surveys in the Philippines, and we've done surveys in lots of Southeast Asian countries. And I mean, it's heartbreaking. You go over there, it's just heartbreaking. They don't have the waste management that we have. It's very different. And if you're not finding the rubbish on the beaches, you're getting choked by the air pollution because they're burning their rubbish. There are two very, very big challenges here. Obviously, the one in Southeast Asia is even bigger, but it does have a literal flow-on effect to Northern Australia. That is being addressed ongoing and constantly. Federal government has a really good understanding of that issue. And so we've worked with DFAT, the United Nations, and some other like Pacific Island organisations to try and help there. That's all ongoing. The reason I like to do stormwater and just to highlight that Australia has issues is because we have good waste management systems and we have all these assets in the ground. Like I feel like we're kind of like 90% there. We just have to do that last 10% and that'll make a difference to our country. And I think in some ways we're doing a worse job than say that like Philippines or Indonesia, because we should know better. We have the resources. We're a wealthy country, yet we're still polluting. I don't know if I've answered that I mean, there's no answer really, but certainly the Australian government are very aware, and I think the public too, of the pollution issues and the litter coming from Southeast Asia, marine debris. But in terms of pollutants nationally, stormwater just doesn't really get much of a voice. And as much as the algal bloom in South Australia has been awful, I think that's really started to highlight some of the challenges around land pollutants affecting oceans. So sorry, I don't have a great answer for that, except that we're working on it, and feel free to jump in and be part of the team. And if I were you, don't join CSIRO right now. It's a pretty rough place to be. But anyway, I didn't say that out loud, did I?
Che, did you have anything you wanted to say in that, or happy to kind of move on?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, yeah, I'm happy to move on. I think it's correct in that, Justine, it's not black and white. It's very grey. It's just $1 spent in Southeast Would probably net you a much bigger benefit than $1 spent here, I guess, is the thought behind that. But I'll leave it there.
Okay,
cool.
Yep.
Well, yeah, Justine is probably more than happy to chat with people later if people want to.
Absolutely, yeah. I'll put myself back on mute, but I'll put my email in the chat. Feel free to reach out to anybody.
Okay. So getting back to the slides. So one thing I just wanted to raise as kind of something going on at the moment, because there's about a month left for applications, but in Southeast Queensland, there is the zero litter to the bay commitment from the state government up there. And we do have someone from state government up there, but I'm not going to call them out unless they want to say anything. But if I, all right. So yeah, there's $35 million available. The deadline for applications is end of March, so it is quite soon. However, this money, yeah, from what I've kind of seen, can be used for installation of stormwater assets, rectification and maintenance. And depending on kind of what stream you are for those applications, you can get quite a significant amount of money. Stream 1 is up to $9.5 million, while Stream 2 can go for up to $2 million. So there's a lot of money available right now. There is, yeah, the application process to go through, but my main reason for highlighting this is as part of that, the councils do need to contribute 10% in kind of the money. So it's not just state government going towards this kind of project, but potentially recognizing that there's a lot of WSUD assets across private properties and making sure that those stormwater treatment ones are capturing pollution that would help reduce that litter reaching Moreton Bay. And so I thought it would just be something to note that potentially that 10% can be more focused on private. If people are interested in that, you could spend $200K over 2 years for a compliance officer or an education officer, really helping those councils, those properties with those assets and making sure they're getting maintained. So to try boost it, because the state government money is more directed for that public infrastructure, which makes sense. But yeah, just thought I'd flag this in case anyone up in Queensland wasn't aware of it, but I'm sure most of them are kind of familiar with this right now. But hopefully something like this can be replicated elsewhere so that other councils can get some much needed money for the work, important stormwater work they're doing. But yeah, there's a giant QR code there that you can scan. It'll take you to the application stuff, or you can click on that link. We can come back to questions if anyone has questions after I do my little framework update. But in terms of the framework, also before I get into this, just I guess a shout out to the Parramatta River Catchment Group this week, who have started their workshops as part of their kind of standardizing the standards across their catchment, looking at WSUD controls and figuring out what those what they can do across the catchment to make it more standardized, to reduce issues and create more efficiency across that catchment and the work that the Parramatta River Catchment Group are doing. So that's good to see with the second workshop happening today, and there's a few more over the next few months. And hopefully at the next network meeting, we can have them kind of give a little bit of an update on how that's going. In terms of what I'm doing, as I mentioned at the last network meeting, there is a conflict of interest policy that has been drafted that is open to consultation if people are still interested in providing any comments about it, but recognizing my conflicts and all of yours and everyone that's been involved in this, I thought it was important to get such a document in place. And so that's available on the website in a draft format currently. However, by the end of March, I'll be probably looking to close that consultation, but always happy to take comments and questions about improving that, because I recognize that's an important part of such a collaborative project. My main focus for this year with the framework is to pilot it. So we've developed it, we've reviewed it as an industry, and now it's actually to start testing it. And so that's kind of my main priority this year, is to find an organization that's willing to test it with me. So test it whether it's a partial test or a full test. I'd love to do a full test with you, set up a compliance program. However, I recognize some councils might not be ready for that. So it could be a more partial one, just setting up some of those legal foundations or maybe more educational resources. That is something I'm happy to kind of sit down and work with you. And that pilot can be as simple or as complex as the council wants and tailored to your needs and resourcing, recognizing that this framework is supposed to be helpful to councils across the country. A lot of flexibility has been brought into this, and you can kind of use it to mold to you rather than you having to mold to it. So happy to help you figure out what that can look like depending on your priorities, how much resources you have, how much time you have, how much interest and support you have as well. Outcome of such a pilot should hopefully lead to more maintenance happening within your LGA. It should help save you resources. You can access me for free basically to get you to do this. but also it gives you, the framework is for free, it has fact sheets, it has letters, it has process maps, mock-up technology systems, and a whole bunch of things. So that should hopefully reduce the amount of time and money you would have to spend on this. Also, it would help improve the framework. So each time the council actually uses the framework, it can help improve it, because as we experiment with it and test it, we can see how it can be improved for others. And ideally, I'd like to document that into a case study if councils are open to that. And there is that opportunity to maybe become some sort of project partner for the framework if we go down this route of piloting it with you. In terms of what could happen, so over the past 4 to 6 months, let's say 6 months, I've been sending through proposals and working on proposals to councils that are interested in this. And so what I'm kind of proposing is 4 different stages for such a project. That first one is to investigate the situation, do some meetings, do some desktop review to investigate what's happening, how many assets could you potentially have, where they might be located, figure out how much pollution could be captured if these were being maintained, and those sorts of questions. So that way it can help get you that buy-in later on when you need to get more teams involved. You can help them understand why it's important to them. The next stage would be the planning, so developing a full project plan, outlining, all the different steps, all the meetings, all the workshops, what resources would be developed when. And so I already do have a few project plans developed as part of those proposals I've submitted, so that is something I can easily tailor to other councils. Development would be kind of where the majority of the work happens. The idea is through a series of workshops and meetings. I would help kind of develop those resources and processes. I could co-lead those with another council staff member, or I could just kind of step back as an advisory person in these meetings and workshops, whatever the council kind of feels comfortable with. And with that, it could help develop process maps, a funding model, legal foundation, technologies to be used within this, and also those educational resources, the letters, the fact sheets, etc. And then in that final one, looking at implementing the actual program, and with that, help you kind of host a series of workshops and webinars to help implement with all the different stakeholders, internal and external. So helping make sure that all of the councils understand what council staff know what they need to do, but also helping developers understand how they can comply with the requirements, work with property owners and maintenance providers to make sure that things are getting maintained and the property owner knows what they need to be doing. So what could I do? What I've been proposing to council so far is that I would lead the facilitation of the workshops and meetings. But again, that could be co-led or in kind of more of a guest speaker sort of role. I can help develop those resources and materials, noting a lot of them are already developed. It will just require some maybe rebranding or adjustments based on your context. And then, do the thinking, doing the creative work of trying to make this work for you, so that way you're just reviewing, you're just helping me, and then I'm kind of doing that harder thinking, higher level kind of work. While councils, it would be in-kind contributions. It's just attending workshops and meetings, getting involved so that I can figure out exactly what you need, providing that feedback and review of those materials and what's discussed in those meetings. So that way it works for you, because I don't want to be telling you what to do. I want you to tell me what you want and making sure it aligns with what your organization is doing. And then also just providing access to some relevant information and team members so that this can be tailored and be accurate with what's happening in your organization. How long would it take? Which is an important question, I know, for councils, but the reality is it really depends on your situation and what you want to achieve. For the first one and the actual second one I proposed about 9 months to be ready for implementation. So that's that implementation stage. So those first 3 stages. Second one was about 12 months, just recognizing it was a little bit more work. And then the one I'm going to be starting on soon is likely to be over 12 months because there's going to be a few councils potentially in that project. So it could potentially be a bit of a bigger, longer project. What are the benefits? A pilot with me, or whether you test this yourself with a consultant or whatever you do, such as what PRCG have done with some consultants. It's a high impact, no cost and low risk opportunity, in my opinion. Again, it is free. I would be happy to support you in whatever way you're happy with and comfortable with. There's environmental benefits if these assets are getting maintained. It's improving waterway health. It helps with climate adaptation. It helps with social benefits, reducing exposure to pollutants and stagnant water. I was chatting to a council staff member recently, and they were talking about some basin issues and stagnant water because these weren't designed properly and being maintained. So it was creating a public health issue. Economic benefits. So again, the framework is free. My support can be free, and it can be tailored to you. And then basically, it will help reduce operational costs, because if private assets are stopping that pollution, then it's not getting into the public system, and then the councils have to pay to remove that pollution, when the people creating that pollution should be the ones paying for that, not the council. Then also just organizational benefits, shifting to a more proactive response and making your job as a regulator easier. So having that legal foundation in place at least gives you that opportunity in 10 years, 20 years, if there is that issue of maybe a property is causing flooding issues, or maybe there's a pollution incident, it gives you those legal grounds to do a lot more, and it will make it easier to pursue things in your role as a regulator. If you're not able to commit to a full pilot at the moment, could do a range of other things, such as strengthening relevant development conditions and the covenants or agreements. So just putting, again, that legal foundation in place. Again, happy to work with you. There's also information and examples of these within the framework, so you can look at that and just copy and paste. We could also, just focus on the education and engagement, because as long as there's some sort of interaction from council telling a property owner that you have an asset, you need to do something, there should be an increase in maintenance, whether that's long-term increase, who knows, but just that occasional interaction with council will help boost maintenance. And improving technology and information management systems that support WSUD compliance or asset management. So as I said before, the framework provides a free kind of mock-up system that you can play around with, and maybe look at creating that asset register that Justine was talking about before, or doing something to just make it easy to keep track of where these assets are, what condition they're in. So that's something that could be done, or something else. If you have some other idea about private WSUD assets or even public WSUD assets, I'm happy to sit down and see what that can be and whether I can help you with that. Why am I offering this for free or as an opportunity? So councils helped develop the framework. It was based off previous work councils have done. It's based off interactions I've had, meetings, input, all of that. Councils have also helped review the framework. There were councils that read the entire guideline back to front to back and gave their comments, gave their feedback, and then it led to improvements. And then also, I think now councils should test that framework to make sure it actually works for other councils. Because if that framework is tested, it can make sure that it's accurate, it's reliable, and works for others. So the next steps from here kind of for me is I am going to email all the council people here that have come along or have registered for today, just to kind of see if you're interested in a meeting, or maybe some next steps to see if if I could meet of assistance. We can have a meeting. I can see what works for you. And then, just let me kind of help you, again, in an advisory role or more hands-on role. That can be up to you. But that's kind of my update at the moment. I am really just focused on meeting with councils, doing phone calls, doing meetings, doing these network meetings to have that opportunity to hear what others are saying, what their priorities are for this year. So that's kind of my main priority this year. I am going to hopefully add a few bits more to the framework and do some other things. However, that is kind of where I'm at right now, probably for the next few months is what I'm doing. But just curious if there are any questions or thoughts or anything like that. Happy to take anything, or we can kind of try wrap this meeting up, recognizing we're at about 3 o'clock. So happy to kind of go with what people want. Cool. Again, I'm also happy to stick around at the end if people want to chat then, if people are happy to just kind of wrap things up. So look, meeting wrap up. The next meeting will be April 22nd. You can scan the QR code. You can go on the website and register there. There will also be the wrap up email from today that you can register through that as well with the links there. So don't stress about registering right now if you don't have your phone ready. But yeah, thank you all for coming along. Thank you, Justine, for presenting and sharing all of your wisdom and many hats. But yeah, look, thank everyone for coming along. The meetings will be recorded and made available on the website. There will be a wrap-up email. You can call me, you can email me, you can check out the framework on the website. Yeah, thanks everyone, and happy to stick around for a bit if people want to chat. I might also just check the chat if there's anything. David Nixon has suggested maybe at a future meeting something about the New South Wales Squid Task Force, which, yes, I agree. I will talk to you, David, and maybe we can arrange something for that. So then, Danielle, when would you send the emails for councils? I will try to do that as soon as possible. If you want to email me yourself, happy to do that, but I will try for, let's say, the next week, email people, as yeah, there's quite a few people that are registered today. So no particular deadline, but I'll try to do that as quick as I can. Justine, any final comments from you?
I just want to say thanks for having me. And
Yeah,
yeah,
same
again,
here.
happy to chat if anyone's got questions. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, if anyone's got motivation, energy, time,
Yeah.
please reach out to your local stormwater industry group. It's all volunteer. We need more volunteers. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Everyone's just saying thank you, and yeah, happy to call it here. Thanks everyone, and yeah, some emails should be coming through in the near future.
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks everyone.